Welcome to Battleground Stories. This is where war turns into dark and unsettling stories. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Thank you for your support. Now, let's begin. They're still whispering about Braxton County up in them mountains. Folks go quiet when the fog of October blows in thick as wool. They talk of 3 families swept under in 4 nights in 43, ripped apart in their own homes when the rest of the holler slept through shouts. The sheriff termed it wild dogs. The army termed it classified. I term it the thing I learned fear smelled of: damp fur, copper, and a stench prior to war. I was 26 in October 1943, a lieutenant in the 83rd Division of Infantry, stationed at Camp Atterbury. I had a college education. I had good boots. I had no experience with whatever walks 2 legs in one phase and 4 in another. I am Aurelius Caraway, and if you don't think Aurelius is a phony name for a phony story, well, you don't know a thing about West Virginia Caraways. We name our sons in a way that defies oblivion. We got pulled off regular rotation on a Tuesday. No warning. Just a staff car and a captain with eyes that had seen paperwork he wished he hadn't. He told us to pack for 4 days in rough country. He told us to bring weapons and keep our mouths shut. He told us the civilian authorities had requested military assistance for a wildlife situation that was escalating faster than anyone wanted to admit. Wildlife situation. That's what he called it. 3 farms, 12 dead, women, men, children. Dogs torn in half and left in the yard like warnings. Doors ripped off hinges from the outside. Blood on walls that made patterns the sheriff wouldn't describe over the phone. And every single scene had the same detail nobody wanted to say out loud. Tracks that started on 2 legs and ended on 4. They sent 4 of us. Small team, quiet team. The kind of team that writes reports nobody reads because nobody wants to know what's in them. Sergeant Vermont Sage was our tracker. 40 years old, lean as a fence post, face like a hatchet that had seen too many trees. He'd grown up hunting these mountains before the army taught him to hunt men. He didn't talk much. When he did, people wrote it down. He had a way of looking at ground that made the dirt nervous. Scout Juniper Duval was 19 and scared of everything except admitting he was scared. Farm boy from Kentucky with eyes like a hawk and hands that never stopped moving. He could spot movement at 300 yards and tell you if it was deer, dog, or something his grandma used to tell stories about around the stove. Kid had instinct, the kind you can't teach. Radio man Cedar Morello was the quiet one. Not shy quiet, thinking quiet. Brooklyn boy who'd never seen a mountain until the army showed him several. He kept our lifeline to base camp running no matter what, and he had this habit of humming old Italian songs his mother taught him when things got tense. You'd think it would be annoying. It wasn't. It was the sound of normal holding on by its fingernails. And me. I was the one who had to make sense of whatever we found and write it down in a way that kept us out of the asylum. We drove into Braxton County at dawn. Fog sat in the valleys like something that had died there and decided to stay. The trees were turning, all that mountain fire, red, orange, gold, but the color felt wrong, too bright against the gray, like a warning painted by something that wanted you to see it coming. The sheriff met us at the edge of town. His name was Talbot, and he looked like a man who'd stopped sleeping 3 days ago and didn't plan to start again. He had a double-barrel shotgun in his truck and a crucifix hanging from his rear-view mirror that hadn't been there when he bought the vehicle. "You boys Army?" he asked, even though our uniforms answered for us. "Yes, sir," I said. "We're here to assess the situation." He laughed. It was not a happy sound. Assess. That's a clean word for a dirty thing. He spat tobacco juice into the dirt. "You want to assess? I'll show you what needs assessing." He drove us up a logging road that turned into a dirt path that turned into 2 ruts with grass growing between them. The first farm sat in a clearing that felt too open, like the trees had backed away on purpose. The house was small, white paint peeling, porch sagging. Clothesline still had shirts hanging on it, moving in the breeze like ghosts practicing how to wave. The front door was gone, not open, gone. Splinters on the porch, hinges torn clean out of the frame. "The Harpers," Sheriff Talbot said. "Ed, Mary, and their 2 girls. 8 and 11. His voice went flat. The kind of flat that means a man has used up all his feeling and now he's just reporting. "Found them Thursday morning when Ed didn't show up to work the timber crew. We went inside. I won't give you all the details. Some things you don't put in people's heads because once they're there, they stay. But I'll tell you this, the walls told a story. The blood patterns said running, said cornered, said fighting back. The furniture was shredded, not knocked over, shredded. Like something with claws had gotten frustrated with the world being solid. Vermont Sage crouched by the doorframe. He ran his fingers along gouge marks in the wood. Deep, parallel, 4 lines. "Big," he said. "Bear?" I asked, even though I knew better. He shook his head. "Wrong spacing, wrong depth. Bears don't do doors like this. They push, they don't tear." Juniper stood in the center of the room with his rifle held too tight and his face too pale. "Sir," he said quietly. "Sir, there's tracks." We followed him to the back door. The ground there was soft from recent rain, and whatever had left the tracks hadn't cared about hiding them. They started at the tree line, clear as day. 4 paws, big paws, wolf-sized, maybe bigger. The tracks came toward the house in an easy lope. Then, 3 feet from the door, they changed. The paws became feet, not clean. Not like a man stepped into the tracks. The shape shifted in the mud itself. Toes spread. Pads became heel and ball. The stride widened, and the prints that went up the porch steps were long and narrow and had 5 toes with claws that dug in deep. Vermont Sage didn't touch them. He just stared. Cedar crossed himself. Juniper made a sound in his throat like he wanted to ask a question, but his mouth had forgotten how. I took out my notebook and sketched them. My hand shook. I told myself it was the cold. "Second farm's a mile west," the sheriff said. "Same thing. Third farm's 2 miles past that. Same thing again." He looked at me with eyes that had given up on finding answers that made sense. "You're going to tell me this is a wildlife situation, Lieutenant?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I'd been taught to assess situations based on facts and evidence and training. And everything I'd been taught said what I was looking at couldn't exist. But my eyes said it did. And between training and eyes have a way of winning arguments. We set up base camp in an old ranger station a half-mile from the third farm. It was just a shack with a stone fireplace and windows someone had boarded up years ago and never unboarded. We cleared out mouse nests and broke up a wasp nest in the corner and set our gear in a way that said we were professionals who knew what we were doing. We were lying to ourselves. But sometimes lying to yourself is how you get through the day. Sage went out to scout the area before dark. He took Juniper with him. I stayed with Cedar to set up the radio and go through the maps. The maps were old, hand-drawn, full of gaps. Braxton County was big country, lots of hollows, lots of places things could hide if they wanted to. "You believe this, sir?" Cedar asked while he strung the antenna wire. "Believe what?" "That something's out there doing this." I thought about the tracks. I thought about the door torn off its hinges. I thought about the scratch marks that went 8 feet up a wall where something had stood on 2 legs and reached. "I believe something happened," I said. "What that something is, I don't know yet." Cedar nodded. He went back to humming. Italian, soft, sad. The kind of song you sing when you're trying to remember home is still real. Sage and Juniper came back an hour before dark. Sage's face was set. Juniper's face was green. "We found a trail," Sage said. "Runs through all 3 farms, starts up in the high timber, and comes down through the hollows, like it's making rounds." "One animal?" "One set of tracks, but—" He stopped. He pulled out a small cloth bag and dumped something on the table. "Fur. Gray and black. Coarse. Found this caught on a fence post between farms 2 and 3. I touched it. It felt wrong. Too thick. Too wiry. Like hair that had forgotten how to be sweet wolf." I asked. "No wolf I've ever seen." Sage put the fur back in the bag. "And wolves don't make rounds. They range. They hunt. They move on. This thing's got a pattern. It's hitting the same area, same time frame, like it's working a territory." "Or sending a message," Cedar said quietly. We all looked at him. He shrugged. "Just saying. Animals don't arrange bodies. They eat them. Whatever did this left them for someone to find." The room went quiet. Outside, the sun dropped behind the ridge and the temperature dropped with it. Fog started to creep up from the hollow. Through the gaps in the boarded windows, the woods turned from gray to black. "We keep watch tonight," I said. 2-hour shifts, eyes on the tree line. Anything moves, we wake everyone. "You think it'll come here?" Juniper asked. "I think it knows we're here," Sage said. "And I think it doesn't care." That first night was long. I took the first watch with Sage. We sat by the window with the boards cracked just enough to see through. The moon was 3 days from full, fat and yellow, sitting on the ridge like it was too tired to climb higher. The woods were loud at first. Normal loud. Crickets. An owl. Somewhere far off, a fox barked. Then, around midnight, the noise stopped. Not gradual, all at once. Like someone had thrown a switch and turned off the forest. Sage's hand went to his rifle. I felt my heartbeat in my teeth. We waited, the silence pressed against the walls. It had weight. It had intent. Then, from the hollow below us, came a sound, low, rhythmic. Not quite a growl, not quite a hum. 3 beats, pause, 2 beats, over and over. "What is that?" I whispered. Sage didn't answer. His jaw was set. His eyes were locked on the tree line. The sound moved. It circled the ranger station slow, like something taking inventory. It stopped at each corner, at each window. The boards creaked like they were being tested from the outside. Then I saw it, just for a second. A shape against the moonlight. Tall, too tall, shoulders wrong. It moved past a gap in the trees, and I couldn't tell if it was walking or flowing. It paused, turned its head toward the station. Even through the crack in the boards, I felt it looking at me. The eyes were yellow, dull, old, like brass left in the rain. Then it was gone. The sound stopped. The forest started up again. Crickets first, then the owl, then the fox, farther away now, like it had decided to be somewhere else. Sage let out a breath. "You see it?" "Yeah." "What'd you see?" I tried to put it into words. I couldn't. "Something that doesn't have a name in the manual." He nodded. "We're going to need silver." "What?" "Silver," he said again, flat as fact. "Old stories say it works, and right now, old stories are all we got." I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him we were soldiers, not superstitious farmers. But I'd seen the eyes. I'd heard the sound. And somewhere deep in my bones, in a place older than training, I knew he was right. "Where do we get silver?" I asked. "There's a church in town, old one. They'll have communion sets, candlesticks. We borrow them. We don't ask. We just borrow. That's theft. That's staying alive." I looked at him. He looked back. Neither of us blinked. "Tomorrow," I said. "We go at first light." He nodded. We sat in silence. We watched the woods. The moon climbed higher. The fog rolled in thick, and somewhere out in the dark, something walked a pattern only it understood. When I finally lay down to sleep, I kept my boots on. I kept my rifle close. I kept thinking about those tracks that changed shape in the mud, about doors torn off hinges, about eyes that looked at me like they were deciding whether I was worth the effort. And I thought about Vermont Sage's voice, flat and certain. We're going to need silver. I didn't sleep much. None of us did. The forest kept making small sounds that could have been wind or could have been something else. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw those yellow eyes staring back, 3 days from a full moon. That's what Sage had said. I wondered what would happen when the moon got all the way full. I wondered if we'd still be here to find out. But something told me we didn't have a choice. Whatever walked these ridges had picked its territory, and now we were in it. The watch changed. Cedar took over with Juniper. I lay on my bedroll and stared at the ceiling and listened to Cedar humming again. Italian. Soft. The sound of someone praying without using words. Morning felt like a reprieve until I remembered we had 3 more nights. Dawn came cold and gray. The fog hadn't lifted. It sat in the hollow like something that had decided to stay. We ate cold rations because nobody wanted to make a fire. Nobody said why. We just knew. Sage and I drove into town while Cedar and Juniper held the station. The church sat on a hill overlooking Main Street. White clapboard, steeple leaning slightly left like it was listening to something. The door was unlocked. Churches in small towns never lock their doors. They trust God and neighbors in that order. Inside smelled like old hymnals and wood polish. Sage went straight to the altar. He moved like a man who'd done this before, though I didn't ask when or why. He found a silver communion set in a cabinet. Chalice, plate, 2 candlesticks. He tested each one with his knife, scraping gently. The metal showed true underneath the tarnish. "This'll do," he said. "We're really doing this?" He looked at me with those hatchet eyes. "You saw it, Lieutenant. You saw what I saw. So yes, we're really doing this." I helped him wrap the silver in a spare shirt. As we turned to leave, an old woman appeared in the doorway. She was small, bent, dressed in black like she'd been widowed by the world itself. Her eyes were sharp as cut glass. "You taking those to the ridge?" she asked. We froze. She smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Good. Should have been done 3 nights ago. Would have saved the Harpers. Would have saved the Bishops. Maybe would have saved the Kleins." She stepped closer. "My grandmother told me stories. Her grandmother told her. There's things in these mountains older than the coal, older than the trees. Most times they sleep, but when they wake..." She trailed off. "You kill it proper. You kill it with silver, and you burn what's left. You don't bury it. You don't study it. You burn it until there's nothing but ash, and you scatter that ash in running water." "Ma'am," I started. "Don't ma'am me, soldier. I was here when they found the Johnsons in '89. Same thing, same tracks. They said wild daws then, too. My grandmother said different. Said it was the moon fever. Said it takes a man and breaks him and puts him back together wrong. And once he's back together, he's hungry. Not for food, for what he used to be. And he'll kill, trying to remember." Sage's face was stone. "How do we stop it?" "Silver through the heart or the head. Fire after. And you pray it doesn't take one of you before you would take it." She stepped aside. "Go on. You're wasting daylight. And the moon's getting fat." We left. We didn't run, but we didn't walk slow either. Back at the station, Cedar had made coffee on a tiny camping stove. It tasted like dirt and salvation. We melted down one of the candlesticks using the stove and a tin cup. The silver went liquid and bright. We poured it into a mold Sage fashioned from clay and a bullet casing. It wasn't pretty, but we made 3 silver-tipped rounds and a crude knife blade we hafted to a bayonet handle with wire and hope. "This is insane. Juniper said, watching us work, but he didn't stop us. And when Sage handed him one of the rounds, he loaded it into his rifle like it was a prayer made of metal. We spent the afternoon mapping the pattern. Sage was right. The 3 farms formed a rough triangle. The tracks moved between them in a circuit, always starting high in the timber, always coming down through the same draws and hollows, always returning to the ridge above the 3rd farm before dawn. "It's got a den," Sage said, pointing to the map. "Up here, in the old growth timber where nobody goes." "We go," I said. "Sir," Juniper's voice cracked. "Sir, that's a bad idea." "All our ideas are bad," Cedar said quietly. "This one's just more honest about it." We geared up. Rifles, silver rounds, the makeshift blade, canteens, compass, a flare gun in case we needed extraction or last rites. We moved out at 1400 hours, 4 men walking into timber that got darker as we climbed. The fog followed us up like a loyal dog. The trail was there. Sage found it easy. Tracks in the soft earth, broken branches, and something else. Scratches on trees. High scratches. 7, 8 feet up. Deep gouges that wept sap. "Marking territory," Sage said. "Or counting," Cedar muttered. "Counting what?" "Us." The trees closed in. The canopy turned the afternoon into twilight. Birds went quiet. The only sound was our boots, and our breathing, and the weight of being watched. You know that feeling. It's not paranoia when the thing watching you is real. We found the den at 1530 hours, a rock outcrop with a cave mouth hidden behind fallen timber and vine. The smell hit us first. Wet fur, old meat, something else underneath, something chemical and wrong, like the smell of a hospital mixed with a slaughterhouse. Sage held up a fist. We froze. He pointed to the ground. Fresh tracks, big, leading out of the cave and down the mountain, recent, maybe an hour old. "It's hunting," he whispered. We approached the cave with our rifles up, and our hearts somewhere in our throats. The entrance was low. We'd have to crouch to enter. Every instinct screamed not to. We did it anyway, because that's what soldiers do. We do the thing that screams no until it screams something else. Inside was dark. We used red lens flashlights. The beam cut through the black and showed us things we didn't want to see. Bones. Not animal bones. Some were, sure. Deer, dogs, but others were different, smaller. The kind that belonged to children. They were arranged, not scattered. Arranged in neat little piles against the wall, like someone was keeping count. "Jesus," Juniper breathed. On the far wall, scratches. The same symbol we'd seen on the trees, a circle with a slash, and beneath it, letters, crude, carved with claws. They spelled hungry. Cedar's hand shook on his rifle. "It can write." "It remembers," Sage said softly. "Whatever it is. Part of it still remembers being human." In the corner, we found clothes. Old, torn, a work shirt, overalls, boots that had been ripped open from the inside, and a wallet. We didn't want to open it. We opened it anyway. Inside was a driver's license. Raymond Klein, born 1891, Braxton County. The photo showed a thin man with hard eyes and a harder smile. "Klein," I said. "That was the 3rd family." Sage checked the dates on the license. He'd be 52 now, if he's still alive. "He is," Cedar said. We looked at him. He pointed at the bones. "None of these are adult male. He's not dead. He's changed." The pieces fell together like a puzzle nobody wanted to finish. Raymond Klein. The husband and father from the 3rd farm. Whatever walked these ridges wasn't hunting his family. It was his family, and something had twisted him into the thing that killed them. We heard it before we saw it. That sound. 3 beats. Pause. 2 beats. Coming up the trail behind us. Fast. "Out," Sage barked. "Now." We scrambled toward the entrance. The sound got closer. We could hear claws on stone. We could hear breathing. Not human breathing, the kind that has too much lung behind it. We burst out of the cave into the failing light. The thing was there, 50 yards down the trail, standing. It was tall, taller than a man should be. Shoulders hunched, arms too long, legs bent wrong at the knee. Fur covered its torso in patches, gray and black. The skin between the patches was pale and scarred. Its face was the worst part, almost human. But the jaw was too long. The teeth were too many. The eyes were yellow and old and looking at us like we were problems that needed solving. "Silver," I said. My voice came out wrong, too high. "Use the silver." Juniper raised his rifle. The thing tilted its head. It smiled. That's what broke me. The smile. Because it was Raymond Klein's smile. I could see it in the shape of the mouth, could see the man underneath the monster. And the man was gone, but the memory of him was still there, trapped inside something that had eaten him from the inside out. Juniper fired. The round hit the thing in the shoulder. It sparked. Smoke rose from the wound. The thing shrieked. Not pain, rage. It dropped to all fours and charged. We ran. Training says stand and fight. Instinct says run and live another second. We chose instinct. The thing crashed through the brush behind us like a truck with teeth. We hit the main trail and ran downhill because downhill is faster, and faster might mean alive. Cedar went down, tripped on a root. The thing was on him in a heartbeat. It grabbed his leg and pulled him back. Cedar screamed. He twisted. He brought his rifle around and jammed the silver bayonet into the thing's forearm. Smoke, sizzle, the smell of burning hair and meat. The thing released him and howled. We grabbed Cedar and hauled him up. His leg was torn, deep gashes. Blood soaked his pant leg black. "Go," he gasped. "Go, I can move." We moved. The thing followed, but slower now. The silver had hurt it, really hurt it. It kept pace, but it didn't charge again. It stalked us. It wanted us to know it was still there, still coming, still hungry. We made it to the ranger station as the sun touched the ridge. We barricaded the door with everything we had. Furniture, gear, an old iron stove we dragged across the floor. We tended Cedar's leg. The wounds were bad, but not fatal. Yet. We wrapped them tight. We gave him water and morphine from the med kit. He hummed while we worked. Italian. Sad. His mother's song. "It's Klein," I said to Sage while we reinforced the windows. "Raymond Klein. He's the thing." "Was Klein," Sage corrected. "Whatever he is now, he's not that man anymore." But he remembers. He wrote on the wall. He knows he's hungry. Knowing doesn't make him human. It makes him worse. Sage hammered a board across a window. Because he understands what he's doing, and he does it anyway. Night fell like a hammer. The moon rose. 2 days from full now. Fat and bright and cold. The thing came with it. We heard it circle the station. Heard it test the boards. Heard it scratch at the door like a dog that wanted in. And then it spoke. "Hungry," it said. The voice was gravel and rust. Human words shaped by something that had forgotten how to be human. "So hungry," Juniper whimpered. Cedar crossed himself. Sage and I locked eyes. We didn't need to say it. We both knew. Tomorrow was the full moon. And if tonight was this bad, tomorrow would be worse. The thing scratched and circled and spoke its single word until dawn. When the sun finally crawled up over the ridge, the scratching stopped. The voice went quiet. We heard it move off into the timber, back to its den, back to its bones and its memories and its hunger that would never be full. We didn't sleep. We sat with our rifles and our silver rounds and our fear that had worn through bravado and was now just naked and honest. Cedar's leg had stopped bleeding, but it was hot to the touch. infection, or something worse. Juniper stared at the walls and didn't blink. Sage cleaned his weapons with hands that were steady because his hands remembered how to be useful even when his mind didn't. "Tonight's the full moon," I said. Nobody answered. They didn't need to. We all knew what that meant. Whatever leash had been on Raymond Klein, whatever small part of him that still said, wait, or stop, or careful, that leash was about to break. And when it did, he wouldn't stalk. He wouldn't circle. He would come through these walls like they were paper, and he would kill us all, because that's what the full moon does to things that are already broken. "We need a plan," Sage said. "We have silver," Juniper offered weakly. 3 rounds and a blade. Against that thing, that's not a plan. That's a prayer." "Then what?" I asked. Sage looked at me. His face was stone, but his eyes were tired. "We don't wait for it to come here. We go back to the den. We trap it. We kill it in the place it feels safe, because that's the only advantage we're going to get." "That's suicide." "Staying here's suicide too. At least this way, we choose the ground." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say we wait for extraction, we call for backup, we let someone else deal with this. But the radio had been spotty all night. And even if we got through, what would we say? Send help. There's a werewolf. They'd send us to the hospital, not the thing. We were alone. We'd been alone since we drove up that mountain. The army didn't know. The sheriff didn't care. The old woman in the church had warned us and sent us on our way. This was our fight. And we had until the moon rose to figure out how to win it. Cedar looked up at me from his bedroll. His face was pale. His leg was worse. "Sir," he said quietly, "whatever happens tonight, it's been an honor." "We're not done yet, soldier." "No, sir, but just in case." I nodded, because sometimes you say the thing you need to say before you can't say it anymore. And Cedar had said his. The day crawled by. We checked our weapons. We made more silver. We melted the chalice this time. Made 4 more rounds. It wasn't enough. It was all we had. Sage sharpened the silver blade until it could split light. Juniper sat by the window and watched the woods like they might give him an answer. They didn't. They just watched back. At 1600 hours, we ate. MREs taste like cardboard, but they give you fuel. We needed fuel. At 1700 hours, we geared up. At 1730, we left Cedar at the station with a rifle, silver rounds, and a radio he'd keep trying even though we all knew help wasn't coming. His orders were simple. If we're not back by dawn, head for town. Tell them to burn the ridge. Tell them to burn it all. He nodded. He didn't salute. You don't salute in the field. But the way he looked at us was a salute anyway. The kind that says goodbye, in case goodbye is all that's left. We moved back up the mountain. 3 soldiers, 3 silver rounds each, 1 blade, and a plan that depended on luck and timing and the hope that silver actually works the way the stories say. The moon was already rising, pale at first, hidden behind the ridge. But you could feel it. The air changed, got heavy, got electric. The woods went quiet again, that dead quiet, the kind where even the wind holds its breath. We reached the cave at 1845 hours. The sun was gone. The moon was climbing. And somewhere inside that darkness, Raymond Klein was waking up to the thing he'd become. Sage looked at me. "Last chance to turn back, sir." I thought about Cedar's leg, about Juniper's eyes, about the 3 families torn apart, about doors ripped off hinges and bones stacked in neat piles, and a man who'd written hungry on a wall because that was the only word he remembered how to spell. "We finish this," I said. Sage nodded. Juniper checked his rifle. We moved toward the cave mouth. The moon cleared the ridge, full and bright and cold as judgment. And from inside the cave came a sound that made my blood remember. It used to belong to something that ran from predators. It was laughing. Raymond Klein was laughing. And the laugh said, I've been waiting for you." The laugh echoed out of the cave like something dying that had decided to take its time about it. Not human, not animal. Something in between that knew it shouldn't exist and was proud of it anyway. We stood at the cave mouth with our rifles up, and our courage somewhere behind us trying to catch up. The moonlight made everything silver and black, no gray, no middle ground. You were in the light, or you were in the dark, and the dark was where things with yellow eyes waited. "Formation," I whispered. Sage took left, Juniper took right. I held center. We moved in slow, red lens flashlights cutting through the black. The smell hit harder than before, rot and musk, and something chemical like fear has when it ferments. The bones were still there. The clothes were still there. But the wall was different. More scratches, more words. They covered the stone now in jagged lines that hurt to read. Hungry, 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 over and over. Like a man trying to remember his name by writing it down, or forget it, or both at once. "It's gone," Sage said. He pointed to tracks, fresh, leading deeper into the cave, into tunnels we hadn't seen before. "There's more to this den. We don't follow," I said. "We trap it here, in the entrance, where we have room to move." "How?" I thought fast. "Fire. We make a choke point with fire, force it to come through the flames. The silver rounds do the rest." It wasn't a good plan, but it was a plan that used small words and could be done in the time we had, so we did it. We dragged deadfall and brush to the cave mouth. We made a rough semicircle. We doused it with lamp oil from our packs. Not much. Enough. We set charges with matches wrapped in oilcloth. Pull the cloth, scratch the match, run. 3 positions, 3 angles. Crossfire with silver-tipped rounds, and a prayer that physics still worked the way we'd been taught. "When it comes," I started. "It'll come fast," Sage finished. "Aim for center mass. Keep firing until it stops moving. And if it doesn't stop..." "It'll stop," Juniper said. His voice was steady now. Fear had burned through him and left something harder behind. "It has to stop. We're making it stop." I wished I believed him. We waited. The moon climbed higher. The cave breathed. That's the only way to describe it. The air moved in and out like lungs. From deep inside came sounds, scraping, pacing, that 3-beat rhythm. And then silence. The silence was worse. "It knows," Sage whispered. "Knows what?" "That we're waiting. It's deciding if we're worth it." "We killed 12 people," Juniper said. "We're worth it." "It didn't kill 12 people," I said. "Raymond Klein did. Before this, before the moon took him. He killed his own family, and then he became this thing. Whatever's in that cave isn't just a monster. It's his punishment. And it's still hungry, because punishment never fills you up." Sage looked at me. "Where'd you get that?" "The old woman at the church. She said it takes a man and breaks him and puts him back together wrong. Klein was already wrong. The moon just made it honest." Before Sage could answer, the cave vomited out the thing that used to be Raymond Klein. It came fast. Faster than before. Faster than anything with that much mass should move. It hit the firelight and kept coming. We lit the barrier. The oil caught. Flames jumped 6 feet high and made the night scream orange. The thing didn't slow. It leaped. It cleared the fire like it was a line someone had drawn with chalk. And it landed in the middle of our formation with a grin that said, "Did you really think that would work?" We fired. All 3 of us. The silver rounds hit. Chest, shoulder, neck. Each impact sparked and smoked. The thing screamed. Real pain this time. It staggered, but it didn't go down. It grabbed Juniper, just reached out and grabbed him by the vest and lifted him like he weighed nothing. Juniper got his rifle up, pressed the barrel against the thing's ribs, fired. Point blank. Silver into meat. The thing convulsed. Dropped him. Juniper hit the ground and rolled and came up firing. Sage went in with the blade. He moved like a man who'd done this before in a different life. Fast, low. He drove the silver up under the thing's armpit where the armor of fur was thin. The blade sank deep. Smoke poured from the wound. The smell of burning flesh made my eyes water. The thing backhanded Sage. He flew, hit a tree, didn't get up. It was just me and Juniper now. And the thing turned to look at us with those yellow eyes that were mostly animal, but still had enough human in them to hate what they'd become. "Hungry," it said. The voice was Raymond Klein's voice. I could hear it now, under the gravel and the growl. A man's voice, a father's voice, saying the only word he had left. I fired my last silver round. It took the thing in the throat. The head snapped back, blood and smoke. It went to one knee. I thought we had it. I was wrong. It lunged. Not at me. At Juniper. The kid tried to dodge. Wasn't fast enough. The thing's jaws closed on his shoulder. I heard bones crack. Heard Juniper scream. Heard the wet sound of teeth meeting meat. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed the silver blade from where Sage had dropped it. I ran. I drove it into the base of the thing's skull, where spine meets brain. I drove it in with both hands, and all the weight I had and every ounce of fear and rage and grief that had been building since we saw those first tracks. The thing went rigid. Its mouth opened. Juniper fell away. The thing turned its head slow and looked at me over its shoulder. The eyes flickered, yellow to brown, brown to yellow, human to animal to human again. "Thank you," it said. Raymond Klein's voice, clear, soft, like a man waking from a nightmare. "Thank you." Then the eyes went yellow one last time. It collapsed, twitched, went still. I pulled the blade out. Smoke rose from the wound. The body began to change. Not fast, slow, like ice melting. The fur receded. The bone shifted. The muzzle shortened. Within minutes, what lay on the ground was a man. Pale, scarred, naked, Raymond Klein, 52 years old, dead in a way that might finally be permanent. Sage groaned. I helped him up. He had a concussion, maybe broken ribs, but he was breathing, and that was enough. Juniper wasn't moving. His shoulder was a mess, blood everywhere. I tore my shirt, made a compress, pressed hard. He opened his eyes. "Did we get it?" he whispered. "We got it." "Good." He closed his eyes. "That's good." We needed extraction. We needed it now. I ran back to the ranger station. Cedar was still there, still trying the radio. I told him to send everything. Coordinates, casualties, priority medevac. He sent it. And miracle of miracles, someone answered. Help was coming. 90 minutes out. I ran back up the mountain. Sage had dragged Juniper away from the body. We sat with him, kept pressure on the wound, kept him talking, kept him conscious. Because if he went unconscious, he might not come back. The moon was directly overhead now, full and bright and indifferent. The body lay where it had fallen. It was smaller now, almost peaceful, almost human. I thought about burning it like the old woman said. We should have. We didn't. We were too tired, too hurt, too done. That was a mistake. The helicopter came at 2 hours. They took Juniper first, Sage second. Cedar limped up on his bad leg and refused a stretcher. I stayed. I told them I'd wait for the sheriff. They didn't like it, but they left. I sat with Raymond Klein's body until dawn. I kept the silver blade in my hand, just in case. The forest was quiet, the normal quiet. Birds starting to wake, wind in the trees, the moon setting behind the ridge. When the sun finally came up, I checked the body one more time. Still dead, still human, still Raymond Klein. The sheriff arrived at 7 o'clock. He looked at the body. He looked at me. He looked at the cave with its bones and its scratches and its words that said, "Hungry," in letters carved by claws. "Wildlife situation," he said. "Yes, sir." "You took care of it." "Yes, sir." He nodded. Good. We'll say he was a vagrant. Attacked your men. You defended yourselves. Self-defense. Clean. And the families? Wild dogs. Like we always said. He met my eyes. You understand? I understood. Some truths are too big for paperwork. Some stories don't fit in reports. And some things you just don't talk about because talking makes them real. And real is something nobody can afford. They burned the body. I watched. Made sure it burned down to ash. Made sure the ash went into the creek that ran below the ridge. The old woman had been right. You don't bury it. You don't study it. You burn it and scatter it. And hope that's enough. Juniper lost the arm. Infection and damage. They tried to save it. Couldn't. He went home to Kentucky and learned to farm one-handed and never talked about what happened on that ridge. I visited him once. 5 years later, he had a wife, a daughter, a quiet life. When he saw me, his face went pale. Is it back? He asked. No, just visiting. He nodded. Didn't invite me in, didn't shake my hand, just nodded and closed the door. I understood. Some people you save, some people you remind of the worst night of their lives. I was the second kind to him, so I left. Sage died in 47. Bar fight, knife to the gut, wrong place, wrong time, wrong man to piss off. They said it was quick. I hope they were right. He deserved quick after what he'd survived. I kept the silver blade, wrapped it in cloth, buried it in my backyard. I told myself I was done with it. I was lying. Sidar made it to 52. Heart attack. Stress, they said. Too many cigarettes. Too much coffee. Too much war. At his funeral, his sister asked me if I knew why he used to wake up screaming. I said I didn't. She nodded like she believed me. She didn't. But sometimes a lie is a kindness. I'm 78 now, too old for most things, not too old for memories. I live in Virginia, small town, quiet. I keep to myself. I don't hunt. I don't go into the woods after dark. And when the moon gets full, I lock my doors and keep a light on and tell myself it's over. But some nights I hear it, that rhythm, 3 beats, pause, 2 beats, coming from the woods behind my house, coming from the hollow where the fog sits heavy. And I wonder if we got all of Raymond Klein, or if something stayed in those hills, something that learned from him, something that's still hungry. I dug up the silver blade last year, cleaned it, sharpened it. It sits in a drawer by my bed now, just in case, because the old woman was right about one thing. There's things in these mountains older than coal, older than trees, and most times they sleep, but not always. Last month, a sheriff from Braxton County called me, said they'd found 3 families dead on the ridge, torn apart, doors ripped off hinges, tracks that started on 4 legs and ended on 2, said it looked like wild dogs, but his voice said he didn't believe it. I told him I couldn't help. I'm too old, too slow. Too done with things that don't exist until they're killing you. He thanked me, hung up. I sat with the phone in my hand and stared at the blade in the drawer. 3 families, just like before. The pattern repeating. The moon getting fat. The hills remembering how to be hungry. I haven't decided yet. If I'll go. If I'll take the blade. If I'll try to stop something that might be unstoppable. But I think about Juniper's missing arm. About Sage's quick death that maybe wasn't mercy, about Cedar's screaming nights, about the price we paid to stop one monster in one hollow in one October in 1943. And I think about the price if nobody stops this one. The moon's 3 days from full. I can feel it. In my bones, in my bad knee, in the scar on my ribs where Raymond Klein's claw came close to opening me up. I can feel it the way you feel a storm coming, the way you feel eyes on your back, the way you feel the world getting ready to break. So maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll take the blade and drive back to Braxton County and walk up that ridge one more time. Maybe I'll stop whatever's killing families under the full moon. Maybe I'll die trying. Or maybe I'll just sit here. Keep my doors locked. Keep my light on. Keep telling myself it's someone else's problem now. But that sound, that 3-beat rhythm, it's getting closer. Every full moon, a little closer. And I wonder if running made me safe or if I just led it to better hunting grounds. So that's my story. That's what happened in October 1943 on a ridge in Braxton County. We stopped Raymond Klein. We used silver and fire and desperation. We lost good men doing it, and we learned something the Army doesn't teach. Some enemies don't die when you kill them. They just wait. They evolve. They come back. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more stories about the things that don't belong in history books. Comment where you're from and whether you believe me. I don't need you to believe me, but I need you to be careful when the moon gets full. I need you to lock your doors. I need you to remember that silver still works even if you don't believe in what it's supposed to stop. And if you're ever in Braxton County in October and you hear something moving through the woods in a 3-beat rhythm, don't go looking for it. Don't try to explain it. Just go home. Lock up, turn on the lights, and pray it's not hungry, because hungry is the only word they remember, and remembering makes them worse. The moon's rising again. I can see it through my window. Fat, yellow. 2 more nights until it's full. I'm going to make coffee. I'm going to sit with my blade. And I'm going to decide if I'm too old to fight monsters or if you're never too old to finish what you started. Maybe I'll see you on that ridge. Maybe I won't. Either way, stay safe out there. The hills are old, and some things in them are older. Thanks for watching. See you next time. If there is a next time.